Imagine this. You're driving home from a party with a friend, or maybe home from work. Maybe you had some dinner. You haven't done anything wrong. Then suddenly you see red and blue lights flashing behind you. You pull over. Your heart's pounding a little bit. The officer walks up, leans towards your window, takes a breath, and says, "I smell marijuana." Now listen carefully. What you say next could decide whether you drive away or your car gets torn up at the side of the road. Most people panic here. They start explaining, they start rambling, they start trying to sound innocent. And some people do the worst thing possible. They agree to let the officer search their car. Now listen carefully. If a cop says they smell weed, first thing out of your mouth should be, "Officer, I do not consent to searches." That's it. Calm, clear, short. "Officer, I do not consent to searches." And then stop talking. Stay with me, because in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to say, the tricks police use after that line, what changes if you're the passenger, what to do if they try to hold you up for a dog, and what to say if the police pull this same move at your front door. And there is one question you need to memorize that can expose whether they are illegally stretching the stop. I'll give you that in just a second. For years, police have used the phrase, "I smell marijuana," like a master key. They say they smell it and suddenly they want to search your car, your bags, maybe your passengers, maybe delay the stop, maybe call in a canine. And here's the problem. In the moment, you usually can't prove what they did or did not smell. That's why you do not help them build the case. You do not explain. You do not guess. You do not say, "Well, maybe my friend." You do not say, "There's nothing in my car. Go ahead, search." No. You say, "Officer, I do not consent to searches." Even if you think they're going to search anyway, you still say it. Why? Because refusing consent may not stop a bad search in the moment, but it can matter later when your lawyer challenges what happened. That is a huge difference. Here is the second phrase you need memorized. Am I being detained or am I free to go? This one is powerful because police love to turn a simple traffic stop into a fishing expedition. Maybe the original reason for the stop was speeding, maybe a turn signal, maybe a license plate light. But once they finish handling that issue, they can't just keep you there forever because they're curious. So if the stop starts dragging out and now it's turning into drug questions, your line is, "Officer, I do not consent to searches. Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" That question forces them to make something clear. Either you're free to go or they're claiming to have a legal basis to hold you. And that does matter. Now, here's where people get tripped up. Whether the smell claim is enough can depend on your state, the facts, and even whether or not officers claim they smell burnt weed or fresh weed. So, number one, what state are you in? This is huge. In some states where marijuana is illegal or decriminalized, courts are becoming much more skeptical of odor alone being enough for a search. Because if something may be legal, the smell alone does not automatically prove a crime. But in states where marijuana is still illegal, odor claims can still create major problems for a driver. Number two, did they say they smelled burnt marijuana or fresh marijuana? That can matter. Burnt odor can linger. You could be in a rental car that smells like somebody else's bad weekend. You could have been around somebody else. Fresh odor gives police a stronger argument that something is physically present right now. So yes, those details do matter. Number three, who are they trying to search? Driver and passenger are not the same thing. If you're the passenger, do not assume you have no rights. Absolutely do. And if you're the passenger, your line is still, "Officer, I do not consent to searches." Because one of the oldest police tactics in the book is divide and conquer. One officer works a driver, another works a passenger, trying to get one of you to confess, trying to get one of you to throw the other under the bus. So if you're the passenger, do not become the government's favorite witness by accident. Now let me tell you what's really happening psychologically in that moment. Police want you talking, not because they're curious, but because talking creates evidence. They want nervousness, they want contradictions, they want admissions. They want you to fill the silence because they know that silence makes you uncomfortable. That's why they say things like, "So be honest with me. If you got nothing to hide, why won't you let me search? You smell that? What does that smell like to you?" That last one is a trap because they're trying to get you to say it. They want your mouth to do their job for them. So they ask, What does that smell like to you? Do not play the game. You're not there to help narrate your own search. Now let's talk about some common cop tricks. Number 1, the consent trap. If there's nothing there, you wouldn't mind if I have a look. Wrong. Having rights does not mean you have to have something to hide. Your answer is, officer, I do not consent to searches. Trick number 2, the canine delay game. Fine, then I'll get a dog out here. This is where people crumble. They think, well, I guess I'm stuck here all night. No, your question is, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Keep bringing that back up. No speeches, no attitude, no debating constitutional law on the roadside. Just that question. Trick number 3, they say you look nervous. Of course you do. Anybody with a pulse gets nervous during a traffic stop. If they say, you seem nervous, your answer is, officer, I'm trying to remain calm. I do not consent to a search. Trick number 4, furtive movements. That means they claim you are reaching, grabbing, hiding, basically moving suspiciously in the car. So the moment you're stopped, do yourself a favor. Put your hands where they can be seen, on the steering wheel, on the dashboard, in plain sight. And if they accuse you of reaching around, you say, officer, my hands are in plain sight. I do not consent to a search. Now let's talk about the mistake people make at home, because what you do at your front door can be just as bad as what you do in a traffic stop. If the police come to your house and say they smell marijuana, do not make it easy for them. Do not swing the door open to clear things up. Do not step outside because they seem polite. Do not let politeness become consent. If you choose to speak, speak through a closed door and ask, officer, do you have a warrant? If they do not have a warrant, that matters, because if they do not have a warrant, they cannot legally come in. And if they say they just want to talk, remember this, a lot of bad cases start with people trying to be helpful. Helpful gets people searched. Helpful gets people talking. Helpful gets people arrested. Now, what if you're not in a car? What if a cop just walks up to you and says they smell weed? Same first question. Am I being detained or am I free to leave? If you're free to go, leave. Don't start talking. Don't engage. Just walk away. If they say you're detained, then say, I do not consent to searches. I am invoking my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Or, I plead the Fifth. I love it. Nice and clean. I plead the Fifth. Short, clean, controlled. That is the formula. Now, here is the biggest mistake people make in these encounters. They think they're going to win by arguing on the roadside. You won't. This is not where you win. You win later. You win in court. You win through video. You win through motions. You win through a lawyer challenging whether the stop, detention, or the search was actually legal. So if the officer is wrong, rude, aggressive, or flat out lying, do not let that pull you into talking your way into trouble, because the people who hurt themselves the most are usually not the people with the weakest case. They are the people who could not stop talking. So let's lock this in. If a cop says, I smell marijuana, remember these 2 phrases. Officer, I do not consent to a search. And am I being detained or am I free to go? That's your script. Not excuses, not stories, not nervous chatter. Those 2 lines, then shut up. Now, if you like this video, I encourage you to like the video, leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel. Let me know your thoughts on marijuana, legalization, decriminalization, whatever. If you truly can't think of anything to comment on this video about, well, let me know who I remind you of. We got Jack Black, Joe Pesci, we got John Leguizamo. Somebody did mention Tom Cruise, making me blush a little bit. I like all comments. I read them at least 3 times a day, try to go through them as many as I can. There's a lot of comments sometimes. And there's not that many comments, but I do try to read them. If you are facing criminal charges in Indiana, I encourage you to give me a call so me and my team can talk about your options. The number is 317-632-3642. And remember, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, always plead the